Thank you everyone for joining us today with this Picavi event about new work. I'm very pleased to see a lot of people joining from all over the world to discuss new work and also the new normal. With me today, I have two special guests. One is sitting right beside me, Raphael from Vitra. I'm very curious about what you have to tell us and share your experience of what you've learned in the last couple of years. The reason why we started this event about new work is that this topic, new work, experienced really a hype in the last couple of months. We all had to adjust to a new normal. We had to work from home. Things like everyday products, pasta and toilet paper suddenly got traded like gold. And of course, that also had some issues with logistics. So I'm very pleased, again, I can't say it enough today, to have you here and tell us all about your experience. Again, we are very sorry for the delay. Raphael will tell us in a minute what he had to endure on his way here. One more thing before we start, you have a little button like a speech bubble in the left corner. This is the chat function. So we will use this to gather all your questions you might have in the end. So first Raphael is going to present, then we have Maria from Google joining, and then we are ready to have a great discussion with you all on this topic. So Raphael, you usually travel the world and experience crazy things, meet a lot of people, and essentially look for new patterns that change the way we work or might change the way we work. Some might say you have the best job there is. So please tell us a little bit more about you and then everything you have on the future of work.
So, thank you. Sorry for my delay, it was my fault. On the highway from Frankfurt to here, there was some activists, climate activists, that dropped down like Tarzan from the bridge and then over and out. And I had a little bit luck, so I go with my car from the highway over the field, and now with a delay from 1 hour, I'm here. So I'm Rafa, I work as Trendscout, and my agenda is the future of work. And I want to immediately start to share with you some information with my slides. Normally, I live there where the blue little drop is. It is in Bavaria, in the southeast of Germany. I live on a lovely farm surrounded by nature. We are totally driven by renewable energies, and we are really taking care about the good place we have. So what happens with COVID? Before COVID, we have a predictable life. And what happens out of a sudden, the unpredictable comes into our life. And what we have to learn to deal with the unpredictable. And dealing with the unpredictable, so to understanding the unknown is part of my job. In the past, that was my toolkit. My bag, passports, money, cell phone, my computer, and then I need. I go to the airports with it 20 up to 25 countries a year, from Asia to the United States, from the north of Europe to the south, to understand what is the future of work in 5 or 10 years from now. It totally changed, like most of us. So that is my new setup. In my car, I have my little studio, camera, microphone, lighting. And what I do now, since 7 months, I talk frequently to the people around the globe to understand, to learn, but even to share my experience. Like today, I talk in the morning to Singapore, and in the meantime, I was in the central district of close to Frankfurt. What I understand is what we have to do is we have to understand signals, because we was a little bit unprepared with the situation. In the past, we was a little bit criticless. We take the situation as they are. And I want to highlight a person. Her name is Lara Katuria. And she's really good to understand and to read signals, to understand the environment around her. She's chief analyst of the Norwegian pension fund. It is the biggest pension fund in the world. It's founded with around $1 billion US dollars. And during the conversation with the journalist, she come up with the following quote. So the journalist asked her about what is the secret of her work, and he let him know it's like you look into the newspaper and you flip, and every information inside the newspaper is important for investment decision. So ask yourself how you make decisions, with a midterm and long-term perspective, how you challenge the status quo, and that is quite important. I met in the beginning of this year on the CES in Las Vegas, Akio Toyoda. Akio Toyoda, the CEO of Toyota Motor Company, he talked to a giant audience in one of these ballrooms in Las Vegas during the CES. And he let us know, like, how great will it be to have a glass bubble to get the secrets about the cars of tomorrow. But then he came over and let us know he don't care about that, because the future of Toyota is not only cars, the future of Toyota is much brighter. By producing cars, they learn so much new technologies, techniques, and opportunities that the future of Toyota is based on 10 new pillars, on 10 new patterns. And for that reason, Toyota is willing to invest in a new Toyota City. It's called the Toyota Woven City, close to the Mount Fuji in Japan. And what is so interesting, this city is built on an old heritage area of a Toyota car manufacturing site. So what we have to learn, thinking about the future of work, we have to train our mindset. So to build a mindset is like a daily exercise. I let you know now the, for me, most important points. First is how we think and how we design. First, we start how we design. In the past, everything what we designed was user-centric. So the user was in the center of our design process, whatever, if we design a service or if we design hardware, and that drive us through all the last years. But in the future, we have to add something, and that is planet-centric design. Why planet-centric? Recently, the Nike design chief let us know that form follows function is not enough anymore. Form and function should follow the footprint. And why? Because since 5 years, since 2015, the United Nations Sustainability Goals are on air. More than 6,000 companies sign up, more than 160 countries, and for that reason, it's so important to think planet-centric. And for sure, even in the logistic, it's important to think planet-centric to reduce resources of consumption. Another topic is how we think. All over the world, and believe me, all over the world, we are same educated. We think inductive and deductive. Inductive is from role models to examples, and deductive is from examples to decisions. So if you go to Japan, if you go to Nairobi, or if you go to another place in the world, it is always the same. But that is good if you live in a predictable world, if everything is linear and process-driven. But what happens now is, as more unpredictable things are coming into our life, we have to think abductive. Abductive means you have no idea how to deal with these issues. You have no idea how to set up a team, and it's like a giant iteration. It's like a permanent beta momentum. And for that reason, we get new facilities. On the picture, what you see here is a multi-shop floor close to the city of Stuttgart. It is founded by Mercedes-Benz, by Bosch, and by Porsche, the University of Stuttgart, and the state of Baden-Württemberg, with one reason: to train people from inductive and deductive into abductive thinking, to bring the attitude of permanent beta thinking into the shop floor. So multiple shop floor, because a few companies share the shop floor, the work is becoming visible, and so you could learn much more from your coworkers than in the past. In a nutshell, I would say in the future business cases, it's really important to think abductive in a better tool, and we should take a holistic perspective, planet-centric, whatever we do and whenever we do the things. Now we come to another interesting point: how we create data and tools. Look, this year we will produce, create, and store more than 50,000 zettabytes all over the world. So, but a lot of people, especially now, believe they are in the center of the digital world, but we aren't. In less than 5 years, the amount of data will increase 3 times more, and that is massive. So, and to get an idea always what's going on in this data world, I always take a look into the gaming industry. I believe the gaming industry is a good educator for the future of the world. First, you have like the game master. Why we should not have a scope of work master in any organization? Then inside the gaming, you have not the gaming teams, you have the squads. Why we should not operate in organization with squads and not think so much into departments. And the other thing is the quality of the experience in the virtual world. The other things are the tools. Latest with COVID, we all step into the work from home community. The work from home community is a giant community all over the world. And there are no more than these 3 tools to work remote. For the most of the people, they get an invitation by Hangout, Zoom, Teams, Slack, and then I thought, oh my God, why I get so many different software tools? I want to operate it once, but the future is different. Currently, more than 700 remote tools are existing. And there are a lot of startups outside, they are proper, and they really are willing to step into the markets to provide new, brilliant tools to do remote work. What makes these remote work tools so interesting is most of them are synchronous. So we have to, the old world of work is asynchronous. The entire buildings, the office buildings are asynchronous buildings, but the software has the capability to serve a synchronous software model. It's like you work with 10, 20, 30, maybe 100 people on the same task in the same time, and that makes these tools so interesting. So, the imperative of the future is to take technology wisely on one hand side, but on the other side, to understand the power of data, but not only by the experts, so it's like a common goal for all of us. Now we come to another point, and that is really important, especially for the old world. So how we educate and how we work. Look, maybe it looks like your classrooms. It was like my classroom, oh my God, it's now 44 years ago. So, and I would believe my classroom is not far away from here. It looks like still the same. But do we really believe if we educate our kids in these kind of settings that these kids could deal with the challenge of mankind? I don't believe so. I give you an idea how school is today. The picture you see is the Brightwatch School in San Francisco. And you should figure it out. You should go to the videos of the Brightwatch School. The founder is one of the was former Adobe manager. And you also learn there mathematics, or you learn a language, but you learn that in 3 steps. First is exploration, second is impression, and third is exposition. So by exploration, maybe you get a task like, hey, what would happen if we operate Oakland by renewable energies? So the kids first has to understand what are renewable energies. Second, they have to find out which kind of renewable energies create the amount of energy to serve the entire Oakland. And then they try to understand what is the consumption of a household. And at the end, exposition means they make a pitch. They make a pitch to the teachers, to their classmates, or even to their parents. And another interesting idea, sorry, that is in German. Currently, one of the largest German Baumärkte, how you say that?
Ah, that's a good one. Hardware store.
Hardware store, sorry. One of the leading hardware store in Central Europe, Hornbach, is now providing school classes, the entire fit out like at Brightwatch School, and there's a company called Forever Day One. They implement now this program into the classes. How brilliant is that? The other point is that every job has an expire date. We are close here, where we are here at Picavi, where the miners are. And the miners, the last mine closed in 2018, so in December, now 2 years ago. But there is a point that any job today will get the same, come into the same situation like the miners 2 years ago. The opposite is there are a lot of new jobs around us. the biggest opportunities are in the green economy and the other in the caring economy. But for these jobs, we have to prepare the people. That means reskilling, upskilling, learn, but even unlearn to step into a new time. So what we have to understand is each of us should create his own story. It's not about my company Vitra or my boss Heiko. It's at first about myself to act like a protagonist. But for acting like a protagonist, you need space in 2 dimensions, physical and virtual. And the other thing is like to really learn new things, it's not enough to go like on an online class. To really learn new things it's multidimensional. And the best is like these kind of fab labs or technical areas like in a university to express and to understand what's going on. Now I come into my last point. Oh, I'm good in time. How population is growing and which kind of generation is the next one? If you look at that slide, this is the amount of the amount of citizens on planet Earth. And they all want to live like you. They want to have a job, they want to have their family living in trust, protected by the states, fresh air, water, whatever. And in less than 10 years, it will increase more than 700 million people. 700 million people is like continental Europe. That is a huge amount of people in less than 10 years. But the biggest difference is like Africa and Asia. And the typology of this next generation is special because this generation is really critical. You could love greater or you could hate greater. But what we have to understand, this generation knows they easily could achieve 100 years. And if you understand you could achieve 100 years, but the planet is burning, you start to fight for climate change. Like today, these activists on the highway going down like Tarzan on a rope. So I really understand their issues. So have in mind, what we create today will be taken over by a generation, and this one is totally different. And it doesn't matter if you're in Manila, if you're in Japan, if you're in the States, in Africa, or in Europe. The other point is like organizations are changing. So that means these kids grown up much more in a connected world. So connectivity for these kids is really important for this generation. They have a seamless experience most of this day. They can interact with anybody. For that reason, we need new kind of buildings. But these buildings don't have to be new. They could be old, but they could be kind of a new programming like software. The building you see on the picture is here east. Here east is the old press center of the Olympic Games in London. And now it's taken over as a multi-use space. Like in the beginning, the first tenants was startups, larger companies, smaller companies, universities, artists, and now it's a giant mix of people. And this giant mix is, I would say, the prototype of spaces of tomorrow, where you get a kind of exploration and social learning to tackle the new challenges. So one point is, regarding this generation, whoever follows the rules of nature will succeed. Or it's not enough to have a commercial perspective inside your organization. You also have to embed a society contribution inside your organization. And the other point is, we should not be aware about empty office buildings, what we have to learn to program them new. So by all the things about the future, it's like, it's not only the future, but it's also, what was much more stronger is our memories out of the past. The books you see here, there are 3 great books. They're all published in the States. And they are older than 50 years, older than 50 years. The whole Earth catalog, it's like the internet as a printed issue, where a group collected every year the best things around the globe, publish it in a book, and send it out so that everyone get access to the newest information, first. Second is, this rain book is like an idea and that time about a utopian city, driven by renewable energies, no cars inside, vertical gardens overall, local farming, all the points you would wish for yourself, what is your preferred future, was published 50 years ago. And The Universal Traveler is like the book you would say today, like, would show up with the design methods. So, what we have to do is we have to learn to frame. So framing is only trained if you study design or some of these design disciplines. Why that is important? We have to take over the opportunity to read signals every day, to read our environment, and to ask ourselves what that means for me, for my company, and for my customers in 5 or 10 years from now. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much for opening up this whole new world of what is really behind the term new work, rather than just sitting in the home office. Now we have Mireia from Google joining. Hopefully it works out with the technique. Perfect. So now it's truly a global event. Mireia is joining us all the way from Sully, California. She has over 10 years experience in the mobile industry. She is right now head of glass partnerships at Google. And I'm very interested in what Mireia has to share about upcoming technologies and how technologies can help us in those times. So Mireia, the stage is yours.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. Not sure. I see that I'm on the screen, but if you can just do a sign somehow that I can, it would be great. But it was a very, very interesting talk. Here at Google, we always have in mind like sustainability and long-term vision of like how we're going to change the way we work, right? So as Jonas said, I'm head of partnerships for Glass, and really all my career I've been focusing on how technology helps and improves the way that we work. I started with mobile, as you remember, when I was working and bringing phones and mobile to workers, and I've seen that journey go. And right now I'm focusing on wearables and glass. So just let's start with the first slide on like what it is glass, right? So glass, it's a smart glass device that you can wear on your as a glass. It has a screen, it has a computer on it, it has a camera, it has a speaker, it has connectivity, and really see like how technology has improved the way that we work. So in the next slide, we can see like how desktop has improved the way that we work on the office, how mobile has improved the way that we work now on retail, on the office, and how it has made us mobile. And wearables and smart glasses, we see it a way to improve it on how like hands-on workers work today, right? Really, if you think about like the 40s on like how our office was, do you remember like it was like pen, paper, it was very kind of like old school, and then the computer arrived, next slide, and it completely changed the back office. It completely changed how we work today, right? We were more productive. Like there was some jobs that disappear, some new jobs that appear. But when we look at the assembly line on that same time frame in the 40s, and you can think about there is a lot of workers, right? And we think like, how's that today actually? How is working that today? And if we take a picture in the next slide, you will see like on the assembly line, we noticed that workers are still hands-on. Like the job hasn't changed that much. Technology hasn't arrived there, right? So really, we see that the smart glass is the product, is the technology that is going to transform how those workers work today, right? So in the next slide, you will see kind of like the future, and really with Picavi and glass, that future is here today. Like a lot of companies are using it, and we are improving with the glass and solutions like Picavi on like how those workers work, how they are more productive. They are able to have less back pain because they have everything on the glass. They don't need to carry anything. They can be much more productive because they can pick everything in hands. And really, that's how we see glass, really, or any type of smart glass in that space. But like we see it as a technology that is going to revolutionize this type of industry. So think about logistics, retail, manufacturing, any type of like hand worker that hasn't really had like a big transformation. Like the maximum transformation that they've seen is moving from paper to a tablet, but it hasn't changed really the way that they work. Really, that's when smart glass and Google Glass in that instance is really the technology we think it's going to the way that they work. So in the next slide, you will see like how we think glass can improve the way that the workers work. So really, it allows them to be on. It allows them to be hands-free. It allows them to work smarter because they can have access to training, to information, to images in the screen that they have in front of them, a smart screen with a glass. And it can allow them to also have instant expertise. You can have like real-time troubleshooting communication. You can connect to a remote expert that is far away from you, but like can see what you see, or even have like live notifications on your screen and continue working with your hands, right? For us, that's the way that we see it. So if I had to summarize like four ways where glass and the technology is assisting the way that we work, really, in the next slide, you will see it. It's like it allows people to move freely. It allows them to make things and to make things smarter with all the information at a glance. It allows them to inspect and be able to check everything that they need to do, and it allows them to repair, right? Like they can have access to the information, they can be hands-free, they can have access to the remote assistant. So really, that smart glasses and Picavi are transforming the way that we currently work in those type of workers, right?
Now. So now we actually have more time than we anticipated for questions. So we've learned a lot today. I mean, Raphael just opened up a completely new world for us when we talk about the future of work. Mireia was kind enough to show us the technology, what technology changed for us, why we benefit from technology. So now I would like to open up our discussion. And of course, I also prepared some questions because I'm also very interested in some more in-depth knowledge. As I said, please feel free to use the chat in the stream to ask your questions. I will give you a couple more minutes to think of some questions. And I'll just go ahead and get out my questions for you, Raphael. You mentioned in your presentation that we have to unlearn things. Could you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Yeah, there is a theory, it's called U-learning. The scientist is from Austria, it's called Otto Schachtner. And his idea is, if you do the things over the years, same and same again, or if you act in the same role models or examples, it's quite difficult to change that. It's like to learn a new language. And by learning a new language, you get new grammar, you get new phonetic. So you have to leave your old language away. Yeah, so starting from the scratch. And that makes it so hard for us to unlearn things and to be open to learn something new.
Okay, wow. So we have to learn.
It's good for you because you are quite young, but as older you get, as more difficult it is.
Yes, so let's just try to unlearn some things that we think we are able to do in order to create something new. You talked about, just briefly, about the coal miners that just hit the fate that the job is just not there anymore. Do you feel like jobs have an expiration date?
Yeah, sure. So I always, when I make workshops, I always ask the audience, they should ask themselves, how relevant is their job in 5 or 10 years? And we have to understand, especially in the old world, a lot of the jobs, portion-wise, are routine tasks. And routine tasks could be taken over by soft and hardware. So all the things that most people do at home today, so maybe a machine could take over. But that is one perspective. The other perspective is we will get tons of new jobs. And in history of mankind, the humans are explorers. We go around, we endeavor new spots, we learn new things, and I think it's deep inside of us. It's not our attitude to do the same things for the next 30 or 40 years. And what we have to learn to train this muscle, to be an explorer again, to invent, to challenge the status quo, and to start tomorrow doing something what you have never done before.
So again, we have to unlearn things.
Yeah, you have to
start new things.
I think what is really helpful is seduction. It's not like kind of an order. If your boss comes to you and say, hey, you have to do that, I think it's not so good. But if something, like, think about Akio Toyota. If Akio Toyota would ask me, Rafa, be part of this dream story of the woven factory, I would say, I have no idea how to do that, but I want to do that. And I think that is a magic moment that you go out of your cave and say, yes, I want to try it out.
Okay, so kind of like light a fire of inspiration in people.
Like your story here at Picavi. When I heard about that, I say, oh, that sounds really interesting. It's like maybe Google Glass is a little bit out the spot of the normal people if you're not in your job, in your business. But I think that is a good story that you say, okay, I want to be there from the beginning.
Okay, so now that you mentioned the smart glasses, the Google Glass, and obviously we are focused on logistics, we are always trying to figure out how we can transfer new work and the future of work into logistics. Earlier we talked about the home office, but obviously we can't just pack up the warehouse, take it home with us, and then work from home. How would you see a future scenario in that industry?
Wow. I believe this could be the leading industry where half the portion of the co-workers are robots or machine. So if we think about in Star Wars in a good sense, not in a bad sense, it's like to have like all these androids around you helping you doing your job. Yeah, and one hand side. The other side is there's also if you go into the highways, it's like still an old way to move goods from one point to the other one. And where you think, hey, come on, this could not be the end of the story. Yeah? And I believe in logistics, there are a lot of fields inside the warehouses, but also from door to door to come in with new ideas. And I believe it's a huge challenge.
Yes, of course it is. So you said that we have technologies and robots that will support the human being in its work, which is essentially the trend that we ride on with our assisted reality and augmented reality technology, supporting the worker the best we can. And we see this is an overall trend that people actually wish for assisting and supporting technologies, so those repetitive tasks we talked about earlier are reduced a little bit and are supported by this new technology. How would you see that this would take off on a global stage and leave the human beings, us, which is for us really the success factor in today's logistics and also in the future, but how would you see that positive impacts like maximizing the productivity and giving the opportunity to have my workers also dive into different departments rather than just picking all day, take off on a global scale? Or how would you say, how long will it take for us to accept that trend and really use the benefit and the potential?
Okay, I think there are two perspectives. One is what you mentioned out with the new perspective, but the other thing is to rethink the labor currently in the logistic industry. So, like to stretch or to make the job opportunities inside the logistic wider on one hand side. Look, if you go into the car industry, that is a good example how they achieve that since the Tin Lizzy up to now, how to make a shop floor a place where you want to be, where you have your squad, where you are proud that you're part of this kind of, maybe you build the engine, or you make the body, or you're in the paint shop, and even how the teams work, what they learn from each other, how they get their own exploration of social learning. And I think this is a point what the logistic industry should keep on their mind. To give the people there other or additional opportunities in life. Yeah? What companies have to understand that they have a new kind of duty in the future is education. And I believe, special in these areas, there's a good place to do that. So that point. And the other thing is, I think it's, time-wise, it will be in the next 5 or 6 years that will happen. By getting a better connectivity with 5G, with edge computing, we will get totally new opportunities using these technologies in a seamless interaction.
Okay, so
How do you say latence?
latency?
Latencies, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, look, if latency is still an issue, I don't know if you know the video where the guy wear the VR goggles and he cook at home. He was always too late because with the latency.
Yeah, okay.
But at that day, if you cover this issue, wow. Yeah,
Then we are talking real time.
Yeah,
real
that is
time
the real time, for
experience.
sure, yeah.
All right, so I just heard that Mireia had to leave us, unfortunately, so we still have even more time with you. I'm still really rooting for the audience to come up with some questions. I know it's a wowing topic, It's very complex, but I will just keep going and we'll just have a discussion. So I know you work on a work panorama, also on some what-if thesis. Could you tell us a little bit more about the panorama first?
So, yeah, the panorama is like, as the name said, a big picture. It's like a big dashboard for ourselves about the things which are ahead of us. So we don't believe that only the digital topic or like how to attract new talents is important. There are much more topics inside, like permanent beta, talent transfer, the story about reskilling, upskilling. One topic, it's called virtual connectivity, the entire universe of remote work. We have planet-centric insight, so we have 8 topic pillars. These helps us, ourselves, first to challenge the status quo, second, to get an idea what is ahead of us, third, to start to build scenarios. But before we do that, we also share always what-if questions. Like we have 55 what-if questions for real estate industry. A what-if question challenge first the status quo. Second is provocative, it provokes. Third, it's not about an evidence, it's more about that you train to think in possibilities, in opportunities, which could be possible to be not like black or white. It's like all these shades of gray. And we work with the panorama now since 5 years, and that is a real successful tool for us to help companies to go out of their, how you say, the hamster rat? Hamster wheel.
Yeah, it's a German expression.
To go out of their own boots, to understand new things, to go
get out of
beyond
the comfort zone.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So again, unlearn things, get out of the comfort zone, and just open your eyes and take in whatever inspiration you might find to create just a brighter future of work. So I remember I read one article with you or about you where you said that the individual desk is dead.
Yeah.
I know this applies not to the warehouse, but we'll circle back to the warehouse. But also logistics companies have individual desks and individual offices. How would you, or what is the advice to give to our attendees and customers, and maybe also ourselves? We just moved to a new office to create a better space in retrospect to future of work.
So there is a dimension in the future that the tasks ahead of us are too big for one person. So first, like the tasks are too big for yourself that you could achieve that alone. Second is the dimension of speed. So the acceleration of change is so hard that you have to deal with that also. Like it's like you're stepping in a permanent beta momentum, business-wise, but how to deal with that? Space is on one hand side one of the key resources to deal with change. Think about you have a space, and you enter in the space, and there are no, I would say, boundaries, whatever you want to do there, and how to set it up. Think about an exercise hall. An exercise hall at school, everyone knows an exercise hall. And inside an exercise hall, the kids are able to set it up without the teacher. Because these spaces is super flexible, super agile. Inside a giant exercise hall, teams could do the different kind of sports. And that is, for me, an ideal space of the future to deal with the things ahead of us. Because on one hand side, you can adapt quickly. The ability to adapt is super high. Second is, by iteration, you can become better. Third is, work is becoming visible. Because today, all the people are sitting in front of the machine, and you have no idea what the coworker is doing.
Exactly.
How should you even learn from him? No way. So work is becoming visible. And fourth is, you train the teams, the team members, to get over different tasks, and so to build up stronger and better teams.
So now that we saw that we still need human beings to work, So we won't end up in a fully automated economy where we just go out and have fun, but we still have to do some work.
Yeah, by the way, I've
Yeah.
seen a dark factory in Shenzhen. I was now 2 times in the Pearl River Delta with 2 groups. So when we work, we name it Learning Journeys. And look, we are producer of swivel chairs, good design, tables, good design, so forth. And we go to Shenzhen because we want to understand how people will work. And as more you see, you start, by the things you see, you start to combine and you build new, I would say, context, new kind of patterns. And if you go inside a dark factory, if you get the opportunity, you are shocked.
I bet.
No, you're really shocked because, look, if now, out of climate change, a farmer in Nigeria has no opportunities today, that seems far away. But if you think about the 600 million in Europe, the 300 million in the US, that makes it different. So what we have to understand is education is the strongest tool to bring entire societies in a new decade. I would say the digital transformation, how to say, all these kind of transaction, special logistic, they are covered now, they are digitized. I would say less or more this job is done. But the next big job is to make the kind of transformation from the people, from the old decade in the new one. And that is a giant education job.
Yes, so we have to unlearn a lot of things there, I guess.
Yeah, and we have to be, how to say, on one hand said brave, but also open to see there is something beyond in the unknown. Maybe it is unknown today for us, but as more you think about the future, as more you read and understand, as more you could grab these things.
Okay, so you basically say the future of work also has to do a lot with ourselves.
Absolutely.
And what would you say are the uniquely human qualities that makes us essential for the future of work?
Curiosity, empathy, and creativity, and be a human. Because look, if you think what happens now, if you think about planet-centric is getting visible as more you think out of a humanistic perspective. Maybe you think now that is romantic, Rafa, but it's not romantic. This is necessary because there's no plan B. Yeah?
There's only one planet.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we still don't have any questions from the audience, so they're still completely speechless. Circling back to logistics and the whole technology component, we see it every day, every time we go on a trade show. Of course, not at the moment, but let's talk pre-corona. Every time we went on trade shows, people were really amazed by the technology. They just put the smart glass in their face and you could automatically see the inspiration, the creativity light up in their eyes, which I think is exactly what you say we need to do to inspire people. How do you see on all your travels that wearables and technology are also impacting the way we work and we will work?
Look, and to the audience, I don't know if you ever seen the movie Ready Player One from Steven Spielberg. So I'm a huge fan of this movie. I'm not a sci-fi fan, but at home, my wife don't love sci-fi, so I always look them in the long-distance flights. That was one of the movie in 2018. And if you see this movie, you understand, oh my God, there are tons of opportunities outside in the virtual world. So the virtual world is becoming kind of real. So there is not, say, you try to really understand where's the intersection between the real and the unreal, or the real or the virtual. And I was in the Daydream Lab of Google in 2016, I think in December. And so they asked me, hey, what kind of experience you want to get? Oh, I'm a fan of nature. So, okay. So I get kind of a nature movie or augmented story. And then my neighbor was a little bit like, he was a little bit scary, like, oh, what's going on? And he enjoying Star Wars. So I asked, I want to see the same. I want to get the same experience.
Okay.
And so I get the Star Wars dimension. And I was standing in one of these big battleships. So in front of me, all these stormtroopers, and then a spaceship was landing. And then on my right-hand side, out of a sudden Darth Vader. And I feel it like now it was like, and so I believe the virtual world could bring into a big improvement to increase our, imagination, even to educate us, to bring things clearer to us, so to understand dimensions. Yeah? So if you talk about, again, global warming, you say, okay, what is what is it? But if you see maybe giant pictures about like now the Arctic expedition ended, Polar Star from the European Union, so then you get an idea what that means, and maybe then you come to better ideas.
Yes, so we have to make sure everything comes closer to us so we understand
Sure, yeah.
what our obligation to this only plan A is.
And also there are things like, was heißt abgelenkt zu sein?
Distraction.
Yeah, so there's always a topic about distraction. And if life is becoming so convenient and get so good experience, maybe you will never leave your house. That should not happen,
yes.
for sure. Life should be also in a balance, and that is about us, our
Yes.
own responsibility, not to get lost in the virtual world.
That's a very good point. Do not get lost in a virtual world. One day we'll meet
And
again
if
in person.
you should know where, because then you know how to come back home again.
All right, so I'm just gonna have a last question so that we just make up a little bit for the time delay and people can go on with their work or even start to be inspired and just change everything they're doing to incorporate the new normal. Is there any advice you could give, let me say, beginners to start with?
I would not say, look, first to professionals. My advice to professionals is spend as much time you could spend with people outside your company, outside your discipline, and outside your industry. Because all the things you could learn, they are outside your own organization. Alex Pentland from the MIT name it exploration social learning. So, for the beginners, I think they should be first a little bit humble, but curious also, brave, but also respectful. And they should, from the beginning, they should start to understand the voice inside their body. Because at the end of the day, that gives direction.
So the gut feeling, trust your gut.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now my really the last question. Circling back to your what if questions. Do you have, let me say, 3 what if questions on top of your head we could ask in the logistics sector?
Yeah. First is, what if rebels and creators take over your company and not managers anymore? That is a good one. The other would be, what if logistic don't need logistic buildings anymore? To take out a huge footprint on land in these ugly, unuseful industry buildings where we could build kindergartens, schools, and forest. Third dimension is...
It's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one, so... How? So, what could be... That would be interesting. The logistic companies should help. What if you have to give designers recommendation and advices to design goods which don't need less or more at the end any kind of logistic activities. It's like from my idea of a product into something at the customer side.
Okay, that's a lot of food for thought. And I think we covered almost everything. Let me see. Oh, we actually have a question from the audience. Wow, they're not speechless anymore. So it's a rather personal question. How does your home office look like?
Oh, I have a lovely studio. So you have to know I live on a little farm, so space is not an issue. I would say my studio is 70 square meters big with giant windows. Whenever I can open the wall, I open the wall. I bring in windows, as much windows I can get in, with the view for the horse stable and into the forest. Then I have a giant library. I would say 30% of the books, you can burn them in fire because they have no value anymore, old business books. But then I have a lot of artifacts from my journeys collected. So physical artifacts, like they are memories of my journeys. They remind me about the learnings. Then I have a giant wall of posters with all the events or hackathons I organized. And then I have my own workstation, but it's not a workstation. It's much more like a workstation in a shop floor. And because I never clean it up, I leave it and come back again. And that helps me to know what all to do. And I have there also a small studio. When I go to webcasts from my home.
That's basically a new normal there.
Yeah, that's basically, And I really love the space. I also love to go to Vitra, to our beautiful campus in the southeast Germany of Weil am Rhein, to meet my colleagues and to work there and the beauty architecture surrounding. But I really love my studio.
That's great. So I guess we have to do a little more design
I
in
can
the
help you.
office.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll have a talk later on.
And the other point is, you should never underestimate the power of space. I was responsible for the design, for the interior design or inside design on the BMW plant in Leipzig. The building was done by the famous architect Zaha Hadid in 2004, I think it was finished. And this is a totally new, I would say, car production plant that changed so much because it is a gesture to the blue collar and the white collar people. And by the way, the kitchen, all the gastro areas are mixed areas. Not like blue color, white color, it's mixed areas. And as most, we could get an intersection where the blue colors meet the white colors, we have done that. So never underestimate the power of good architecture, even not in logistics.
Okay, so what would you say, now I lost my question. Okay, let's take this from the audience. We have one more and maybe, oh yeah, no, I know my question again. So you said you travel a lot, I think it was 25 countries, you said last year. What was the craziest thing that you've seen on your travels?
The craziest things are, I would say, it's always China. Because if you go there into the labs or these kind of speed factories, that is impressive. Yeah. So from design to production, or from design to shipping, it's far away from everything I could mention before. And but also technology-wise, I love companies like Autodesk, how they deal to design software and how they make software that you could grab it, to understand it better. Or there are a lot of companies. I would not say I'm less or more always highlighted, but really freak out. I would say the last time was in Shenzhen again. Yeah.
Okay, so we all have to go to Shenzhen to really widen our horizon.
Yeah, but I want to mention one point. I think the best combination out to think about of production factories Like, the factory should be run by Japanese people, the engineering by Germans, and the supply chain by Chinese.
All
That
right.
would be the best
Okay.
combination.
Okay. That's a good one. Okay. The last question from the audience is, where do you go, or how do you relax after all the traveling? I guess that's from a person who travels a lot themselves, and they asking for some advice.
So
here.
look, where I live, I would say my near surrounding are living 80 peoples in their houses in the offside, in the countryside. There are dogs, animal, cats, horses, ponies. And immediately when I arrive there, like tomorrow night, it's like I switch off my motherboard, and then I'm on a totally other board. So to be surrounded by nature in this, how to say, radical way, they're outside. Not radical in terms of hard nature like cold or heat. It's like, so you're always surrounded and you have to take care about the nature. It's always work on our farm. That really helps me not to go stupid and crazy.
Okay. So that's one last advice. Connect yourself to nature to not go crazy.
Good.
All right. Well, as I said, we now have a lot of food for thought. Thank you so much, Raphael, to make your way to the crazy highway and the activists. Thank you so much to the audience for joining us. I think you can find Raphael on LinkedIn as well. He's sharing
a lot of...
he's sharing a lot of great stories and even more food for thought. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to see you all again at our next event. Thank you. Bye.